Last, he stuck in his lapel the Boosters Club button. With the consciousness of great art the button displayed two words: Boosters, Pep. It made Babbitt feel loyal and important. It associated him with good fellows, with men who were nice and human and important in business circles. It was his V.C., his Legion of Honor ribbon, his Phi Beta Kappa key. With the subtleties of dressing ran other complex worries. "Feel kind of punk this morning," he said. "Think I had too much dinner last evening. You oughtn't to serve those heavy banana fritters." "But you asked me to have some." "I know, but I tell you, when a fellow gets past 40 he has to look after his digestion. There's a lot of fellows that don't take proper care of themselves. I tell you, at 40 a man's a fool, or his doctor, his own doctor. Folks don't give enough attention to this matter of dieting. Now I think, of course, a man ought to have a good meal after the day's work, but it would be a good thing for both of us if we took lighter lunches." "But, Georgie, here at home I always do have a light lunch." "Mean to imply I make a hog of myself eating downtown?" "Yeah, sure. You'd have a swell time if you had to eat the truck that new steward hands to us at the Atlantic Club. But I certainly do feel out of sorts this morning. Funny, I got a pain down here on the left side. No, that wouldn't be appendicitis, would it? Last night, when I was driving over to Verge Gunch's, I felt a pain in my stomach, too. Right here, it was kind of a sharp shooting pain. Where'd that dime go to? Why don't you serve more prunes at breakfast? Of course, I eat an apple every evening. An apple a day keeps doctor away. But still, you ought to have more prunes, and not all those fancy doodads." "Last time I had prunes you didn't eat them." "Well, I didn't feel like eating, I suppose. Matter of fact, I think I did eat some of 'em anyway. I tell you, it's mighty important to I was saying to Verge Gunch just last evening, most people don't take sufficient care of their digest—" "Shall we have the Gunches over for dinner next week?" "Why, sure, you bet." "Now see here, George, I want you to put on your nice dinner jacket that evening."
"Rats! Rest of 'em won't want to dress."
"Of course they will. You remember when you didn't dress for the Littlefield supper party, and all the rest did, and how embarrassed you were?"
"Embarrassed, hell! I wasn't embarrassed. Everybody knows I can put on as expensive a tux as anybody else, and I should worry if I don't happen to have it on sometimes. All a darn nuisance anyway. All right for a woman that stays around the house all the time, but when a fellow's worked like the dickens all day, he doesn't want to go out and hustle his head off, getting into the soup and fish for a lot of folks that he's seen in just regular ordinary clothes that same day."
"You know you enjoy being seen in one. The other evening you admitted you were glad I'd insisted on your dressing. You said you felt a lot better for it. And, oh, Georgie, I do wish you wouldn't say tux. It's dinner jacket."
"Rats, what's the odds?"
"Well, it's what all the nice folks say. Suppose Lucille McKelvey heard you calling it a tux."
"Well, that's all right now. Lucille McKelvey can't pull anything on me. Her folks are common as mud, even if her husband and her dad are millionaires. I suppose you're trying to rub in your exalted social position. Well, let me tell you that your reverend paternal ancestor, Henry T., doesn't even call it a tux. He calls it a bobtail jacket for a ringtail monkey, and you couldn't get him into one unless you chloroformed him." "Now, don't be horrid, George." "Well, I don't want to be horrid, but Lord, you're getting as fussy as Verona. Ever since she got out of college she's been too rambunctious to live with. Doesn't know what she wants. Well, I know what she wants. All she wants is to marry a millionaire and live in Europe and hold some preacher's hand, and simultaneously at the same time stay right here in Zenith and be some blooming kind of socialist agitator or boss charity work or some damn thing. Lord, and Ted is just as bad. He wants to go to college, and he doesn't want to go to college. Only one of the three that knows her own mind is Tinka. Simply can't understand how I ever came to have a pair of shilly-shallying children like Rone and Ted. I may not be any Rockefeller or James J. Shakespeare, but I certainly do know my own mind, and I do keep right on plugging along in the office. And do you know the latest? Far as I can figure out, Ted's new bee is he'd like to be a movie actor, and And here I've told him 100 times if he'll go to college and law school and make good, I'll set him up in business, and Verona just exactly as bad. Don't know what she wants. Well, come on. Aren't you ready yet? The girl rang the bell 3 minutes ago." 5. Before he followed his wife, Babbitt stood at the westernmost window of their room. This residential settlement, Floral Heights, was on a rise, and though the center of the city was 3 miles away, Zenith had between 300,000 and 400,000 inhabitants now. He could see the top of the Second National Tower, an Indiana limestone building of 35 stories. Its shining walls rose against April sky to a simple cornice like a streak of white fire. Integrity was in the tower, and decision. It bore its strength lightly as a tall soldier. As Babbitt stared, the nervousness was soothed from his face, his slack chin lifted in reverence. All he articulated was, "That's one lovely sight." But he was inspired by the rhythm of the city, his love of it renewed. He beheld the tower as a temple spire of the religion of business, of faith passionate, exalted, surpassing common men. And as he clumped down to breakfast, he whistled the ballad, "Oh, by gee, oh, by gosh, by jingo," as though it were a hymn, melancholy and noble. End of chapter 1.